Welcome to How to Save Your Marriage with Nicola Beer, a show full of tips and practical strategies to repair, rebuild, and strengthen your relationship. If you are currently stuck wondering if your marriage can be saved, or you know you want to save it but don't know how to go about changing it, this show is for you. And now here is your host, Nicola Beer, who specializes in a proven 10-step program to help couples increase their love, passion, and happiness in their marriage in 30 days or less, guaranteed.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola Beer, and I'm really looking forward to sharing with you about the topic today because it's about breaking the cycle of isolating and loneliness. Isolating creates loneliness, and isolating also can damage relationships, so it's a really important area to look at. There is a huge difference between taking personal processing time out when you need to think, assess or relax, and isolating. Isolating is where you don't communicate and connect with others for a long period of time. For example, a person may focus on work, and then after work, instead of interacting with those close to them, they shut themselves down and numb out with food, TV, video games, or a drink. After my relationship ended, feeling sad and numb, I moved into an apartment and pretty much became a robot, moving from a screen in the office to a screen at home. I'd work long hours and come home and watch TV and comfort eat or drink alcohol alone. I'd never felt so lonely, and yet I was the cause of my own loneliness because I kept on choosing staying in over seeing people. I wanted to get home and do the same routine of eating or drinking, often eating exactly the same food. It was a little ritual that I had created and had become attached to for comfort. Yet at the same time, isolating was not a comfort. It was making me feel more and more alone. I had learnt this habit from a young age. My mother was always shouting and moaning about everything, and often this was directed at me. So I used to hide in my room and be all on my own all night. And it was more peaceful. Sat in my own room. I used to sit with my back against the radiator, huddle my knees in, and listen to music. But it was also incredibly lonely. Unconsciously, without realizing, I had developed a pattern in adulthood, was that when you're hurt, distance yourself and be alone. And when conflict, hide. This habit of isolating when hurt led me to feel even more empty and low. Sometimes the loneliness would really get to me, where I would think, what's the point? What's all of this for, if I have no one to share it with? Yet I kept isolating. In fact, whenever I felt down, I'd shut myself off. I'd refuse to talk. I'd even turn my phone off. It became a way of coping and of dealing with pain. I'd do it automatically without thinking. And I believe this unhelpful way of coping led to my addictive patterns. Instead of having close relationships to share my feelings with, I was married to food and a bottle of wine. These became my tools to keep me going. I remember one day being totally confused about where to live, whether to stay in my relationship, what job to do. I was scrambling for clues, for a solution to fix my life. And I decided, in order to fix them, I'd go and spend 3 to 5 days in isolation to work it out. I thought I just need to get away to a hotel and just learn what I really wanted to do and where was the best place to head. Needless to say, I did not feel any better or clearer about the solution. It didn't help me at all. I'd also isolate to avoid conflict in my romantic relationships. I'd distance myself, not communicate with my partner to avoid confrontation. Deep down, I knew this was not serving me, but I didn't know how to stand up for myself or want to stand up for myself. I'd rather hide and sulk than address the issues. The trouble is, often isolating stops us from healing. It stops us from saving the relationship problems, so it causes harm to relationships. And time again, I see this in pattern in marriages I help transform, where one or both in the marriage avoid each other, hoping that the underlying issues will fix themselves. They rarely do. When one or both emotionally shut down, it causes doubt, disappointment, and despair. Feelings, unless felt, leads them to linger. I'll say that again because it's really important. Feelings, unless we feel them, leads for them to linger. If we're just trying to squash them in. Hurt, unless expressed, leads us to hold resentment. Isolation leads to loneliness, emptiness, and can damage relationships. What actually motivated me to talk about this with you today is a couple who came to see me last week. Jackie was at her wit's end because every time she argued with her husband, he would disappear. It started off as a few hours away, and then over the years they've been together, he went to a hotel once or twice. And she came to me last week because her husband Dan had booked a flight and flew to another country after